to the place I belong in Africa. That's where I'm from. Don't wanna die on the Mediterranean. And folks, it's Love Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, your number one African Caribbean online radio. We have a very special show for you today. Today being a very special day, of course, is Easter Saturday. And wherever you may be, whatever you might be doing, by the way, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever you may be doing, please sit back, relax, chillax, because we have a very special show, one of a kind that we haven't had for a very long time, because most of the time we head towards Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora, and then we are in the diaspora right now. We are going to have a very special guest, a legend in his own way. With me is PETRAA, mine sidekick. I'm your sidekick, and it goes both ways. So,
We're keeping each other from the side.
That's right. That's right. How you doing, PETRAA?
I'm great. Hey, Love Bay family. I'm doing fantastic. I'm not in my usual location, as the viewers can usually tell. I'm on location. I'm family event, but I had to still make it here for this fantastic interview and to hail up the Love Bay family worldwide.
Oh, thanks for your dedication. We are so dedicated on this program because this is what we do best. As a people of color, as they say, people from Africa, we don't have what it takes to tell our stories. And this is a platform that we've developed over the past couple of years. As a matter of fact, we are going to be 4 years on the 19th of April.
Woo!
And this is the reason.
Love Bay birthday.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is the way we do best. This is how we see it. We have stories to tell. And like we always say that if you have a story and you don't tell the story and you get somebody else to tell the story for you, it becomes his story or her story. Yeah. And because of the fact that we haven't told our stories, we've been taking for granted. Things that we've done over the years, things that have changed our civilization as we know it in terms of inventions, it's been relegated to the background and our stories have not been told. Musically speaking, that's all they know about us. But we have more to tell the whole world about our story. That's why we have this special guest today. Folks, it's going to be very interesting indeed. Those of you listening to us on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, and if you're new, joining us, viewing us, you're welcome to join us. PETRAA, you know what? It's going to be a very special day because this is my Christmas. To meet Greg. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
An honor.
It's an honor to meet Greg. And PETRAA, open the salvo for us.
Awesome. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, TYB. Gregory, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on Love Bay Radio today. How are you doing?
I am fine, thank you. And honestly, the pleasure is mutual. It is mine as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I've heard you guys are doing good things up here, and based on the intro, just now that you are. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And I have to say, I love the attire. I love the yellow. It's so vibrant and bright and happy and uplifting. So I could tell you're a very sharp, snappy dresser.
Most of the time I try.
Perfect. I love that. So yeah, I actually wanted to start off the interview by asking you, can you just tell the viewers who are listening worldwide, who is Gregory Williams?
Okay. God, I'm a whole bunch of things. Okay. And thankful to be all of them too. Okay. Most of the world might know me as the founder, leader, creator of the group Switch. And I initiated Switch in 1977 with Motown Records. And shortly thereafter, I brought the DEBARGE families into it as well. Since two of the older DEBARGE brothers were part of my group Switch. But I am the founder leader of Switch. I am a songwriter, a music producer, arranger. businessman, among other things. I am CEO of Switch Entertainment LLC, which does everything from management to bank accounts. So that's who I am in a nutshell, and a guy that's happy to be here.
That's amazing. I love that. So you're also a man with lots of wisdom and lots of knowledge that I know you're going to be sharing with us today.
As best I can, absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to get into it. I wanted to ask you what actually made you, or what was the deciding factor that actually got you into music in the first place? How did it all start?
As I wrote in my autobiography, Sweetheart, I didn't choose music. Music chose me. I affirmed at age 6 years old that I was going to be an entertainer.
Wow.
And I made that vow, and with everything in me, I made that become a reality over the years. My mom was a singer in church. My dad was a saxophone player, jazz saxophone player. And my mom's from a family of 11, and all of her siblings sang and played. But nobody out of all of those pursued a career in music. But I got bit by the bug, and everywhere I could show it and take it to, I did, until it evolved into, who I am now and what I've done over these years.
That's amazing. And did you ever think that it was going to be how it is now? Like, did you ever envision? Because I know you said you knew you were going to be in the music industry, but did you ever think it was going to be so iconic and so profound?
To be honest with you, no. I dreamed and I wanted and I worked for it, and it exceeded my expectations. It really did. Overall, it exceeded my expectations. But, again, I'm humbled by it all and thankful for it all because it's still going.
Amazing, yeah. And it's probably even gonna surpass you,
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. I'm sure that I've been a part and a party to something that will outlive me. And for that, what can I do but be thankful?
Yeah, that's a true blessing.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. TYB?
Yes. I know we are going to have a very interesting conversation today. And Greg, January 17th, 1977.
Pardon?
January 17th, 1977.
Yes.
That was from Mansfield to Los Angeles. Can you tell us how it all started, the journey to Los Angeles?
Okay. Let me tell you this. I was with a group prior to creating Switch. I was with a lot of groups over the years, cut my teeth in at 8, 13, 12, stepping groups, bands, because I play trumpet, I play keyboard, I sing and do everything else I can musically. Anyway, I was with a group that was signed to Barry White and RCA Records when I was 19, a group called White Heat. Okay, the group originally, before I got with them, came out of Ohio. So after we recorded our first album with Barry White on RCA, we wound up back in Ohio to prepare to perform. And, So after a while, though, after about a year within the Barry White situation, the record didn't sell. Barry exited his deal with RCA, and so the group got dropped. And with 13 guys in the group, everybody being sad that happened, they began to break up. The group broke up where guys would leave one at a time. Until everybody left except me. I refused to leave. We were in Akron, Ohio, and I refused to leave because I couldn't chase my dream at home. I had to be out there in the middle of it. So I stayed in Akron, Ohio, and I played with local bands and did different shows and stuff until finally I decided to put my group together. Fortunately, at the same time I decided I was putting a group together, a guy that I knew in California reached out to me to ask me to produce an artist on a label he was dealing with. And I asked him, I said, well, man, I'm putting my own group together. Can you get me money to do my group? I'll do your guy if you can help me with my group. Anyway, he wound up getting me money. So I pulled all my guys together. I had them all come to me, and I rented a house in Mansfield, Ohio. And I had everybody come to Mansfield, Ohio, because I didn't want anybody distracted. I knew we didn't have a lot of time. We didn't have a lot of money. So we had to focus on what we were going to do. So with that said, I had everybody join me in Mansfield, Ohio. We spent about 2 weeks learning songs that I and one of the other guys had written, and we cut a demo. Shortly after we cut the demo in February of 77, myself and Jody Sims went to California trying to shop a deal. We only had one tape, but that one tape later on it proved to be all we needed. It was crazy. You don't go with one tape, you know. But anyway, we did. We went to see a guy at RCA Records again to see if he might be interested in the new group since the old group was not there. Actually, it was the president, and he saw us. He wasn't interested. So then we're angry because of the Barry White situation. We go to a place a couple blocks away to see an attorney. We go to see the attorney about suing Barry White, and he says, well, let's talk. Where's your contract? Well, we don't have a contract. So that conversation, that whole meeting ended. We're on an elevator going down. We were on the 20th floor with this attorney. We're on the elevator going down. Who gets on the elevator but Jermaine Jackson and his wife, Hazel Gordy Jackson, Barry Gordy's
daughter.
Okay. Now we got on, Jody and I got on the 20th floor. They got on the 18th floor, but there were other people in the elevator. So we couldn't talk to each other. There were people between us. So they nodded in acknowledgement. We nodded in acknowledgement. Ride down from the 18th floor all the way. Finally, we get down to the 5th floor and Jermaine and Hazel get off. And after that is when Jody and I realized maybe we should give them the tape. So we still had to ride down to the 1st floor. People getting on, people getting off. We remembered what floor they got off on, so we pressed the button for 5 and we had to go back up. Still people getting on, people getting off. This took about 15 minutes. But once we were on the 5th floor, it was just we got out the elevator. It's just a long corridor. We run down the corridor and it's a parking lot. We didn't know that. Just as we go out into the parking lot, Jermaine and his wife Hazel were sitting right there in the front of the door looking for a cassette through his collection.
Wow.
Well, we have the cassette. We have the one you need to hear. No. We talked, we gave him the cassette, and he called us in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
I like your music. What do you guys want? Well, we want a deal. He said, well, I forgot to tell you guys something. Hazel, when she got off the elevator, we didn't see it until she got off. She was 9 months pregnant. We didn't know, but she was pregnant. Wow. So anyway, back to the story. When Jermaine called and asked us, well, can you guys come join me? Well, where are you at? Well, I'm at the hospital. Hazel's in labor, so I'm here in the waiting room.
Wow.
Sure. We go, we meet Jermaine. And he says, I like you guys' tape a lot. He said, I can take you to Motown. And, there's a whole lot more to the story, but that's what happened. And so he took us to Motown and we got signed some 3 months later.
Awesome. But then why did you have to go to Los Angeles? Why did you guys have to go to Los Angeles rather than going straight to Motown? Because
Motown was in Los Angeles.
Oh, it was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, they had moved to Los Angeles by that time. I think they moved in the early 70s. But check this out. We weren't going there for Motown. We weren't interested in Motown. Motown was not on our list of record labels.
Wow.
That's why I tell you, the first place we went was RCA. But Motown wasn't on our list. So it was an act of God that whole thing took place. I'd love to take credit for it, but I was just a pawn in the game. That's all. Because we wound up on the elevator with Jermaine Jackson, who was at Motown. I mean, that happened. So that's pretty much how that whole thing came about.
Oh, I see. So right after that, did you get a deal right away, or they asked you to, the paperwork, how it is. Back in the day, it wasn't like today that, everybody wants to see the black and white dotted lines and stuff like that. Was it, did you get your attorneys involved in the earlier part of the conversation?
Well, you know what? Jermaine told us that day he was going to take us to Barry, so it was pretty much a deal in motion. And over the next couple of weeks, Motown kind of wined and dined me and Jody to talk deal. And then we got an attorney and got involved. So it was pretty much instant. Plus, think about it. To a 19-year-old kid who came out with one tape and finally got a deal, everything happened fast. It was real fast, okay? You didn't have time to blink, think, or anything. It's just do what you got to do. So we got attorneys involved. And like I said, we signed in May. This was February when we met Jermaine. And we signed in May.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was the title of the track?
Oh, it was 8 tracks. And fortunate and strangely enough, of the 8 songs we had on the demo, only one of them made the first album. Only one, because we started putting all new stuff. They, you know, Gregory took us into the studio, hung with us, taught us, and let us do what we do. And by the time we got through with it, there was a whole new batch of songs.
Wow. How did you feel? It was such an excitement. I can see that. Did you know that you were leaving Mansfield? Did you think that this was going to happen? Because God moves in mysterious ways, and sometimes we don't know what we are going to be faced with. But then, if the door opens up and you go through it, you have to make sure that it works for you. How did you feel?
Let me tell you something about young Greg Williams. I was so cocky and confident about doing it. I told the guys before I left Motown, before I left them in Mansfield, I said, don't worry, we'll have a deal in 2 weeks.
Nice.
Never heard anything like that in my life. They'll tell you right now, if anybody had told them that today, they would tell them go straight.
Wow. Folks, we are in conversation with the legendary Greg Williams.
Thank you, sir.
You know what, folks? It's going to be, those of you listening to us and those of you watching us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, we are going to learn a lesson. Right now, I'm learning a lot because, you know, I'm trying to sift myself from back then and now, because right now, you just send emails, you just don't do demos anymore. People just go into the studio and then do their thing. And then to get a deal, moving from home and to get a deal at that age, I don't know what I would have done. But then God moves in mysterious ways, and God bless you. You got it. You know what? That's what matters. Petra.
Amazing. I just want to say, Gregory, I'm loving what I'm hearing so far. Like the story so far, and I know there's so much more to come, is an amazing story. It's an amazing story. And I'm excited to learn so much more. And I'm sure all our listeners worldwide are just as excited as we are today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. But believe it or not, I'm still excited about the story.
It's not over.
I go back to the moment, just like this. This is my book.
Yes.
And that's 546 pages. So there's a lot of stories, a lot of experiences in this book. And trust me, anytime anybody asks me a question about them, I go back to the moment. I relive it, and it is exciting. Trust me, it is.
Yeah, most definitely. I love that. So I actually want to ask you, so how did you actually meet the other members of Switch?
Oh, God. Well, the DEBARGE brothers and I kind of grew up together. I met them, you know, I think I met Bobby when I was 14, and we went to same high school and stuff. And we wound up in a little choir together that was in one of the schools. And so then I met the rest of the family because he was hanging at my house and I was hanging at his house. Yeah. Now, the other guys in Switch, for example, Philip Ingram, Eddie Fluellen, I met them when Switch was based in Akron, Ohio. Well, it wasn't Switch, it was White Heat, actually. It was based in Akron. Well, and we would do different shows around Akron, and Philip and Eddie was in a group called Raw Soul, and they would open for us, and we would open for acts like Larry Graham and Graham Central Station, Tower of Power, Mandrill, different groups, you know, that would come through the area. So anyway, I met those guys in Akron, Ohio, and Jody Sims, who was a member of Switch, he was in White Heat with Bobby and I. I had a wealth of guys to pull from when it was time to put my group together.
That's amazing. I love that. And did you ever even envision when you first met the DEBARGE family? Did you all have the same? Did you all have the same aspirations for your musical career, or is it more that you took the lead and then they kind of followed suit musically?
I took the lead because they may have. I don't think they had the hopes and dreams of a musical career. I think they just wanted to do what they did. They were just naturally talented people. So, yeah. In fact, they actually played in the church, not in the street. And I played wherever I could be heard. You know?
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely did take the lead. And in fact, I got Bobby out with White Heat. A friend of mine, I was in college, and a friend of mine who I grew up with was in the group before they were White Heat. They were TNT Flash. He was in that group, and they had a deal on the table, but it was taking too long. So their trumpet player quit and their keyboard player quit. My
Wow.
partner calls me and says, Greg, I'm in this band. He said, we got a deal with Barry White, but we're waiting on it. He said, you want to come out here and be in the band? I said, I would love to, man, because it was time for me to get up and get out anyway. I said, I'd love to, man, but if you can take my partner Bobby with me. I said, because I can't leave him. And they worked it out. Bobby played keyboards and they worked it out. So I took Bobby then. Okay. And then after that, I was driven. I'm already with a band that had a record deal before. So I'm driven to make that happen with my own band. And so I figured out what kind of band I wanted, what guys I wanted to be in it, and it became Switch.
Amazing. I love that. Amazing. So I wanted to also ask you, so what valuable lessons have you learned over your years in the music industry from the standpoint of being a musician and also from being a business owner in the industry? Because both roles are very different. You know,
I call them a right brain, left brain thing, you know,
exactly.
And rarely the two shall meet, but they do.
Exactly.
Okay? But there are so many lessons that I've learned over the years, you know, and when people ask me what advice I'd give to somebody, first thing I'll tell them is to believe in themselves. But second thing I tell them is to have somebody that loves business like you love music to watch your back. I say, because they can be the eyes in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Because rarely can musicians become business people, and can business people remain musicians.
Exactly.
It's a rarity. So, I mean, that's what I tell people. You got to have somebody take care of your business, because it's called the record business. It's called the entertainment business. That means somebody getting paid somewhere.
Exactly.
Bottom line, if you're creating the music, it should be you. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And you make some really valuable points there, because I find like a lot of musicians, because that's the same with me. I'm a musician, but I'm also a business owner. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with now is trying to stay creative, and in that creative mindset, also having to pursue business, because you need both in order to be successful. So how did you do it?
Go on, excuse me.
No, you make a good point. Yeah. So how did you do it? Like, how did you manage to balance the two perfectly?
I wish I could say perfectly on either, but neither one of them. Come on. Both of them have been difficult in their own ways. You know, but the whole thing is that I did music because I loved to. I did business because I had to.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and fortunately enough, I was not well, I'll just say it. I was not a dummy. I'm an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
And I grew up learning that you have to learn to grow. You know, like I told you, I was pulled out of college to join White Heat. Okay. But the whole thing of it is I straddled a fence. I learned how to straddle a fence because the music was just going to pour out of me anyway.
Yeah.
But I saw too many people taking advantage of that guy. For example, I'll tell you this. Okay, I was with White Heat. I was with RCA Records with Barry White. Okay, the deal fell apart with RCA Records. Barry White created the name White Heat. The group was TNT Flashes. Barry White created the name White Heat. Okay?
Yeah.
When the deal broke up with RCA, Barry White drops White Heat, took his name back so we couldn't use it.
Wow.
And even stole our bass player. So.
Wow. That insult to injury. You're coming with me.
Okay. But anyway, but check this out. Now, everybody was downhearted about all of that. And I think I was more downhearted because my guys were going to leave me. They were going to leave. They had to leave. So I was just kind of downhearted about it. But the thing of it is I learned from that experience. After Barry White took the name White Heat and I couldn't work. Well, when I was dealing and negotiating with Motown, my attorney came back to me and they had all these things in these contracts. And I learned to read and write contracts after Barry White. I had to.
Yeah.
I had no choice. Because, you know, I signed a contract. I didn't know what the heck I was signing. And I said, I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
So I learned to read and couldn't write them. But just the same with the Motown situation, there was like 36 pages in their damn contract. And I couldn't read all that. We had a qualified attorney, big Beverly Hills attorney, worked with my group to get this thing off the ground. When he came to me and told me, Greg, that it's in the contract that Motown wants to own the name, I told him no. And it was a big fight about it, because I don't know if you guys know, but all of the industry during that period, the record companies own the name of the group. Even the group that brought the name in. For example, let me give you some examples. Temptations. Well, Motown owned the name Temptations. So when Temptations left the label, they were stopped from using the name until they agreed to give up all future royalties.
Wow.
So my right hand to God. I don't know if y'all remember. Think about it. Do you remember when Prince had to change his name? He was
I remember.
Okay, so this was with black acts, white acts, all acts, or 90% of the acts had to give up their name. Solo artists, not so much.
Wow.
Bands and stuff had to give up their name to the record companies. Gregory explained it to me simply. He said, Greg, we don't fatten frogs with snakes. In other words, I'm not going to build you and you get to run off with somebody else.
Wow.
Well, again, they told me that they wanted the name switch. And I told them, hell no, I will not give you the name.
Yeah.
They kind of froze things. They were paying my hotel bills at the time. This was while we were negotiating the contract. They were paying my hotel bills at the time. They were giving me a little per diem, and it's me and 5 other guys. And we had nobody in Los Angeles. We had nowhere to go if that fell apart. But I told them, my attorney came back to me after about 10 days, and he said, Greg, he said, they're adamant about this. He said, they want that name. He said, it's pretty much a standard in the industry. I said, you tell them I will go back to Grand Rapids and work in a factory before I give them my name.
Wow.
At that point, all talks shut down.
Wow.
And every day I was waiting on the hotel manager to call me and tell me I had to get out.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, really, I was on pins and needles about it. Finally, after about 2 weeks, my attorney said, Greg, they want to talk again. He said, but what they've come up with is this. You can keep your name, but you have to give us all of the publishing.
Wow.
But I know I'd be writing the majority of the material. I might have fought a little harder for that. But I did find out at that point, if you fight too much, you lose out altogether.
Exactly.
And I was not about to lose out altogether. I said, well, maybe I can fix this later, which I later did.
But good. Yeah,
I kept my name. I still own that name to this day.
That's good.
And now that was one of the most important lessons I learned in this business. Fight for what you believe in, but don't fight too hard if somebody got a bigger glove than you do.
Exactly.
I like that. I really like that.
Thank you, Gregory. Thank you. TYB?
Yes, we're talking about contracts, and there are a lot of new artists out there, or in general, artists who just jump into contractual situations without any sort of backbone or somebody to direct them today. What would be your advice to up-and-coming artists who are eager to just go out there just because of name recognition without understanding the fact that there are a lot of consequences if you jump in to sign contracts that you do not understand? Because at the end of the day, just like what was proposed to you, you were going to lose that name. You are going to lose so many things attached to what you've built. What will be your advice to new musicians or musicians in general who are eager to sign contracts?
You know what? That's a major question. That's a big thing. It's hard to say. I would love to say, don't sign it. I'd love to. But you know something? Some people may never get the opportunity again. You know? So what I do say is this. I say what you have to do is weigh the good and the bad. For example, if Motown had been adamant about keeping my name, then I might have accepted, okay, you guys can have it for 5 years. But I stood my ground so tough that they finally said, okay, you can have that. We ain't gonna fight you about that. But the thing of it is a lot of people lose deals when they try to play hardball. And it may be their only opportunity. And I'd hate to tell somebody walk away from your only opportunity. But on another level, you have to know what all is involved there. And you have to get somebody to help you understand it. And you need a sounding board, mama, daddy, somebody who understands a little more about life than you do.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to understand the contract better than you, but a little more about life. And life says, you know, you can't keep passing up on opportunities. On another level, you can't take every opportunity that comes to you. So you have to kind of weigh issues, is my advice. Try to get somebody that has a legal background or a legal mind that can help you understand what you're getting yourself into. But for the most part, weigh the issues and decide, well, if this is only a 3-year contract and all I got to do is do this for the 3 years and it's going to get me to point B, it may be worth it to take it. But it ain't worth it to sign no lifetime contract with conditions you can't live with. Because it's going to be a dead issue anyway. It's going to be a sad, heartbreaking issue. And you're going to either get discouraged or get dropped or both. So you got to weigh issues. You really do. But I'll always say, try to have somebody in your corner that is willing to love the business on the level that you do and know it as much as they can so that they can help you weigh issues before you make those decisions. It's a tough one, man. You know what? I remember being a young musician and man, I just wanted a deal. After a while, I just wanted a deal because God, man, I mean, look, I'm seeing all these acts out there that ain't as good as me, you know, in my mind. And look, the whole thing is I was able to maintain the strength and integrity to decide what I'd go for and what I wouldn't. In the Barry White situation, I signed it. In fact, I asked him, believe it or not, when we were there, when we first got together, the first night we got together, they had these contracts on the table. And one night I'm with 13 guys and no nobody else speaking up. So I said, just my common sense, Mr. White, do we get to get an attorney to sign these contracts? You know what he said? Sign the MF. That's what he said.
Wow.
That's all he said. And everybody else scrambled for pens to sign. So of course I signed, but I signed knowing that I would never do that again in my life. And that's what prompted me to learn to read them, so that if I'm put on the spot like that, at least I know what I'm talking about here, what's being demanded of me, and what I'm giving up. So anyway.
Greg. I understand that. What I'm a little bit confused was that Barry White at that time, was he signed with Motown or he was?
Oh no, Motown had no. He was signed with 20th Century Records.
Okay.
Yeah, Barry never had any involvement with Motown Records other than to be Jermaine Jackson's best friend, which I didn't find out until after we signed with Motown. Barry White came back into our lives at what? It was 3 years later.
Oh my gosh.
And the first thing he says to me is, I knew I was going to see you again.
I go easily.
Honestly, I knew I was going to see. Those weren't the words he said, but that's what he said. Barry White liked to cuss, so he cussed.
Yes, he was my idol. He was one of the greatest musicians of all time. And going on, my next question to you is that how do you see the industry back then and now when it comes to the contracts? Because we've had a lot of artists, coming to have conversations with us, and sometimes when you ask them questions about contracts, they seem to be like lost, because all that they want to do right now is that, oh, my name is TYB out there. Everybody, you just go out there and play, and people just come, you sign, your autographs and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when you go back home, you cry, you have nothing. So, what is it?
Well, you know what? It has evolved to the point contracts, even though they're different, the language is different, the deals are different, it's still the same thing. Meaning you make the music, they make the money.
Exactly.
Period. Okay. For example, I don't know how many people realize, okay, when I was cutting, there was records and there was cassettes. And it was then evolved into CDs. And now it's streaming.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And the record company made the records, but they had to deal with radio. They had a viable product that they put in your hand that they had to pay to have recorded, pressed up. And then they gave it to distributors who took it to the streets. And they gave it to radio people who put it on the air. And the distributors got it in the record stores and all of that. And it was a process. Okay. But the thing of it is now they're streaming. They don't have to have anything. They got to have a file that's sent over to through your electricity. You know, they're not spending any money on your product, and just the same, they make a deal they call a 360 deal where they get part of your records, they get part of your touring, they get part of your songwriting, they get part of everything you do. That wasn't the case back then. We could make money touring. They made money off the record. And you want to hear the worst thing about it today? Is that the companies that own the streaming companies are the record companies.
Exactly.
So they didn't put no money in to make the record in the first damn place, and then they're making all the money back. And streaming is a fraction of what a record used to be. For example, I wrote a song called "I Call Your Name" on the Switch album. Put out.
I got it.
1979. Good one. Okay. It's been recut by a few people, or sampled, as they'll say, by a few people. But in 2006, there was a kid called Rich Boy who sampled it and put it in a song called "Throw Some D's."
Okay, I think I know that song. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was still CDs. That he might have sold maybe 500,000 copies.
Yeah.
Okay, of that record. Then Nelly did a remake of it. Outkast did a remake of it. Kanye West did a remake of it. So all those, his and all of those others are playing on the radio. And trust me, I made a lot of money as a writer on that song.
Yeah.
I made a lot of money on it. I mean, ballpark of $300,000. And I'm talking about me, and I had a percentage of it.
Wow.
Okay, let me take you all the way to 2022, where a rapper by the name of Drake uses "I Call Your Name" in a song called "No Friends in the Industry." To date, last time I checked was probably about 3 months ago. That song has over 200 million streams. And still the money does not come up to what Rich Boy made for him.
Ooh. And how so?
Because you get fractions of a penny. Off the Rich Boy record and off the Switch record, I made 4%, which was 4 cents off a dollar. Off the Drake record, I still make 4%, but the 4% is streaming. It is not tangible record sales. So therefore, streaming rates are like 0.25% or less, 0.0000 25% or less. You don't make as much money.
So in essence, it was better back then than today.
That's my point. That's my point. You could make more money back then off a record back then. Not to mention, again, the record companies weren't doing these 360 things where they own everything that you do all the way around. So,
you know, this is very interesting to say the least, because like I was saying, a whole lot of artists out there now, you can record on your cell phone. You can do so many things. So the big boys are now sort of being pushed out of the game. If you take Afrobeats, for instance, most of these guys do it independently. So now, the reason why I'm interested with the contractual agreements and all those kind of stuff, I've been through that where I was supposed to be doing a different genre than myself, than what I could do. And I said no, because I wasn't cut to do that kind of a genre. They spread all these contracts in front of me and said, I stood my ground just like what you did. Sometimes it pays off. Other times, just like you said, it's very difficult. If you don't take it, who is going to take it? You don't know.
Right.
But then I'm so enthralled and I'm so happy that you've explained this to up-and-coming musicians who are listening and who are viewing us right now. Folks, we are in conversation with the legend, Greg Williams. Folks, so excited. Now let's go back to DEBARGE. DEBARGE, the group became big.
That they did.
Oh yes, I love them. So, what happened? So, was it when Switch was there And then DEBARGE was, I mean, how did it play out? Did one fade out and then the other take over? Because I know the answer to that, but to the average listener who may want to know a little bit more about Switch and DEBARGE, that's why I'm asking the question. The floor is yours, please.
Okay, I'm going to share something very personal, but I need to share it to be able to answer your question. And that is the DEBARGE children had a difficult life. I mean, there were things in their family that happened to them that defied all logic. It defied anything healthy in growing up. So they are survivors of abuse in various forms of it. And that took control of their psyche. So, and to this day, it still affects them. So I started Switch with Bobby and Tommy in my group. Okay, Bobby, who was phenomenal talent, one of the greatest talents God put on this planet. But Bobby had parallel issues. He had parallel issues to his, there were certain things that he couldn't get over. And so he carried it with him, you know, and he was on a self-destruct mission. So after Switch cut a certain amount of records and got a certain amount of fame, it kind of went to his head. And that upbringing did not help. There was no stability in the upbringing, so there was no stability in the person. So just as that began to erode in Switch, here come the DEBARGE kids, not to mention they're a family, not to mention that they're considered pretty because of the light skin and all that to society and publicity, not to mention the fact that they were incredibly talented, period, especially L. But so Berry Gordy decided to put money into both. Now they were going to stick with Switch as long as we could keep it together. But around the fifth album of Switch, it just fell apart. And that was the same time Motown shifted their energy from Switch to DEBARGE. And that's how DEBARGE wound up evolving to the extent that they did. And it was easier for them to for Motown to turn them into a pop act versus a R&B act. So, in fact, Switch was initially the vision for replacement of the Jackson 5 until the DEBARGE kids came in. And they knew that it was a truer replacement for the Jackson 5 at that point. So that's where they put their energies and their monies. And that's why they got bigger as we went down.
And I think by that time Switch had already made a name.
Yes.
So yes, I think it was sometimes one door would close and another door would open, but then they have to thank you for starting all these. You know, you set the ball rolling with what you had to travel from your place of birth to go all the way to
all the way to Hollywood.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you did it. I mean, at that age, I don't think my mom would have allowed me to even get on the plane or the train and stuff like that. You know, it was back in the day. But then I thank you for what you've contributed. You guys Switch,
thank
big,
you.
And DEBARGE, yes. Now let's talk about the book.
Yes.
I'm reading the book.
This guy.
It's folks out there. Well, I'll let Greg speak a little bit about the book and how people can get it. The floor is yours, please.
And guys, just so you know, it is my autobiography, but it is the biography of Switch. It goes, I shouldn't tell you where it ends because there's 546 pages of information and stories and things like that.
Yes.
But I'm coming with book 2. So this one stops after Switch leaves Motown. Okay. Just so you know that. It only talks about our Motown years. They don't talk about the fact that I pulled the group back together. And there's so much more that is going on. But the thing of it is this. Let's say we made a mark, you know, over the years. We were able to start out and make things happen, you know, with the help of Motown. And actually it continues on today. You know, we're still performing and doing live shows and just put out a new record not long ago. We'll get to that. But anyway, okay. I just want to share that.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's so refreshing to you hardly get to discuss things, just like I was saying just before the show, and that we have stories to tell, and you have a story to tell. This is part one of the story. The part two will be coming.
Yes.
Yeah, you've got a very great story. Seriously.
Thank you.
You've got a great story.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a lot, excuse me, but there was a lot I talked about in this book. I talked about Barry White. I talked about Motown. I talked about Diana Ross and Marvin and a few other people. I talked about how hard it was, to fight Motown while I was there. And I talked about my relationship with Bobby DeBarge and the whole DeBarge family and how that whole thing started. But there was a lot more to talk about. There was a whole lot more that to be said about it all. But I just got it off my chest, man. In fact, somebody asked me, they read some of the stories and they asked me, why did I throw somebody under the bus? Because I wrote something negative, but it was factual about somebody. And they said, well, why did you throw them under the bus? And I told them, I didn't throw them under the bus. I said, I found them under the bus. And that's what I told you. I told you where they were. So bottom line. But I didn't bite my tongue because I needed to get it off my chest, what transpired, good, bad, and indifferent over all those years. And I think I successfully did that. A lot of people the reviews on my book have been great. The sales on my book has been great. It came out in May of 2019, and there's still a whole lot more to tell. For example, and I'll just share this with you, what's coming in the next book is the fact that I worked for Right On Magazine for quite a few years, that I managed El DeBarge and Michelle Thomas from The Cosby Show for quite a few years. I actually went back and got my degree, and there's so much, man, to my life, that I tell about. And a lot of people don't know that the last person, Bobby DeBarge, died in 1995. He died of AIDS in 1995. Wow. He lived with me for the last 3 months of his life until the last 6 weeks. So there's a lot. There's a lot more. So you guys stay tuned. And also, this book, it's on sale. Some are everywhere. You can Google it. It's in stores, Border Books, and this Amazon's got it. But another place that you can get it, and you can get a signed copy, is from my website, which is www.switchentertainmentworld.com. So, in fact, go check out the site because the site is really cool. It tells you about where we've been, where we are, where we're going. It's got all the albums, all the music. It's an exciting website, I dare say. Go check it out. But get this book. You want to read this.
Yes. I have started, like the excerpts that I got and stuff like that. I can't put it down. But then my next question is, you have this first part and you're talking about the second part. Are there any movies in the works?
I'm in talks with a couple people about movies. I am in talks. Yeah, one's been going on for about a year. In fact, I got a couple of offers before the pandemic, but the pandemic kicked that out. So now I'm back at the table again with a couple of people, a couple of different people. So we're praying that we can do this. Something happens. So we'll see.
Yeah, folks, we are in conversation. I'm loving it. We are in conversation with my brother. You know what?
Yes, sir.
Gregory, Greg Williams. Go get a book. If you get a book, that book, Switch, DeBarge, Motown and Me, well, I just said it. Just go get it, and then you won't be able to put it down. You will not be able to put it down.
They're good.
It's full of energy. You've spoken a lot about Bobby, and I think Bobby played a great part in towards this journey.
Absolutely.
There's a chapter on it, Bobby and I, and you devoted so much between the two of you. How did you gel? Did you have disagreements? How did you do? Because I can envisage that he was your best friend in a business.
Absolutely. Yes. And I dare say this, for the first few years, we had no disagreement. We really didn't. In fact, if we had a difference of opinion, it was resolved so quickly because one of us immediately yielded to the other and we went and made it happen that way. So it didn't happen, you know, we didn't really feel any friction in our relationship until after the Motown years. Into the Motown years, when everybody else was putting in their 2 cents about the group and about Bobby, and they filled his head with a lot of things that I was able to keep down over the years. But as the years went on, you know, and then there was a point, excuse me, and then there was a point in time where we fell out completely because his ego had gotten so big. He was telling me, you, the world, that I am Switch. And I'm reminding him that Switch is 6 guys, not 1. You know, and yes, you are all this. And I rode with you to make sure that you were all of this. And I fought these people to make sure that you were all of this. I said, but this group is 6 people, not 1 person. And I can't accept that. And at that point, that was really ultimately what broke the group up, is because I got to look out for everybody else. I'm looking out for everybody. And Bobby looking out for Bobby. And it just got to be something different.
Yeah, yeah. Chapter 17, I looked at chapter 17, Leaving Motown. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Well, that's just me talking about, that's when everything had culminated. You know, Bobby and I, and our tension and our friction. Motown had lost interest because they had gotten tired of, you know, trying to do things and Bobby not showing up or Bobby not agreeing. And they had, Barry Gordy had put all this vested interest in Bobby. So most of it rode on Bobby's shoulders at that time. And there it was. And then what ultimately made it happen like that is when they realized that his drug issues were so major that they couldn't get anything else out of it. And they just moved on and started working on the other departures at that point. So it was difficult, you know, to accept. It's like it is accepting your girlfriend. She's the sweetest thing in the world, and you know, y'all two just love each other, which is our relationship with Motown in the beginning. And then at the end of it, it's like I done found somebody else, so I'm not dealing with you guys. So it was difficult for us, but in realizing that, we also realized it was best to leave, and so we left. Me and the other guys left the label.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you, prior to that, did you tour extensively?
Once. Out of all those years, we only toured once. After the 3rd single, Love Over and Over Again, there was a philosophy Barry had, or an idea Barry had. They stopped us from touring. We could have toured after the 1st album. Keep in mind, Jermaine and Hazel were Switch's managers, so therefore that meant Barry Gordy was really Switch's manager. Okay? And yeah, bottom line. And Barry said he after breaking the Jackson 5, they kept them off tour for the first couple of albums, and then they put them on tour and they started out making $25,000 a night. Okay? Well, he thought the same thing with Switch. Don't accept this $5,000 they'll offer you now, or this $10,000 they'll offer you now. Stay, let's get a few more records under your belt, and then we'll put you out there where you can make some real money every night. Well, we didn't go out until the 3rd album, 3rd single. Okay. And it was just that one tour. We went out in December of 1980. We came back in, if I'm correct, March of 1981. And then the group, Bobby left the group. And then shortly thereafter, Switch left Motown.
Oh, wow.
So the whole damn thing fell apart like that.
Now, how did you feel? Because, you know, working hard to get this going and, you know, with everything that came your way, whether it was bitter or sweet.
Well, there was 2 sides. Yeah. There was 2 sides to what I was feeling. First of all, I was sad that me and my brother had parted ways, me and Bobby. Second of all, I was sad that the record company didn't love us no more, so they weren't going to do nothing with us. You know, next, I was upset because the world that I had lived for the past 5 years in a big style had all of a sudden started tumbling down. Yeah. Okay? But what kicked in was my survival instinct at that time. And I was proud of that because I turned right around, started negotiating with record companies, and ultimately, some 6 months later, wound up getting a deal. Then I couldn't get out of Motown soon enough. I wound up getting a deal with Total Experience, who was with Polygram Records at the time. So, you know, the sadness turned into determination to get up off my butt and prove that everything that had happened prior to that was not a fluke, that it was legitimate, because this is a viable group and I'm a viable cat. and moved it forward.
Of course. Yes, I'm so happy about the fact that you stood your grounds right from the beginning, so you could, sort of traverse within the train of the music industry. Because you know what, the music industry is, I always call it, it's a jungle. It's a dog eat dog area. So if you are able to sort of weigh certain things and move on, I think you'll be great. But what you said that has given me that hope for me to even tell others, new artists, is that you know what, don't be hard on yourself. Don't go for the juggler and say, oh, yo, because I'm TYB, so I'm worth maybe $2 million and stuff like that. If you continue that way, in that trajectory, you'll be benched. So that's one thing that I've learned this afternoon. I hope listeners out there and those of you watching us will learn from it, because the music industry has changed and is going to continue to evolve. And with the advice, the incredible stories that, the conversation that we've had with Greg this afternoon, I think a whole lot of people are going to learn a lot about it. And we look forward to getting you back for the second part of this conversation. We are not finished yet.
No.
But then before we go, how
Yes.
can people get their hands on the book?
Again.
And your advice to...
Again, it's on Amazon. It's on Border Books. It's on Barnes and Noble. If you Google it, it'll come up with probably about 16 different places where you can get it. But, so it's online and brick and mortar. But I say this, I will sign a copy for you if you want, but you have to get it from my website, which is www.switchentertainmentworld.com. Let them know that you want it signed, and they bring it to me at that point, and I sign it and they get it back to you. Okay? And right about now, you can save a few dollars too, because I think I'm a little cheaper on my website.
Okay.
So check it out.
All right. Thank you, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. I thank you, man.
This conversation was so good. I have learned a lot about it. And then there's a listener in Zambia says, that's Ambassador Mutintam Musowi saying, sending you love from Zambia. You know what? We've learned a lot. And until we meet again, you know what? God bless.
Thank you. And you tell that listener I'm sending it right back to him, okay? But thank you. I look forward to the next.
That's right. Yes.
All righty.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Take care. Bye.